What's up, Dragon Brood? So today is the good news. I don't even know if it's the good news, but it's the news that we've been looking for. This is what I was saying that I figured was going to happen, a few days after the last banning, because we kind of saw it coming, but here it is, and I don't feel too bad about it. Let's start at the top. Omnath, out of here, and I don't even feel bad about it. Now, I will say, I think people trying to use the grand finals as the reasoning for this to happen, I think are a little bit off, as that type of event can kind of lead to a lot of people playing the same type of deck or playing the most powerful card all the time. But this is also held up pretty generally for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Whenever you've been playing on the ladder, we saw the CFB Clash events that had something like 60% or 70% of the decks at different points registered with Omnath something or other. So yeah, makes sense. Kinda has to go. Don't feel bad about it. And if you can believe it or not, Lucky Clover has people that are upset that it's going away. Here's the deal. Adventures are already good because they're basically 2-for-1s as far as card economy goes. This lets you turn 2-for-1s into 3-for-1s or 4-for-1s in some cases. And a lot of the cards you get to use them with already have really big abilities. Being able to turn a Stomp from being able to kill something for 2 now kills a 4 toughness thing. Or being able to get 2 sideboard cards with Fae of Wishes. Or bounce multiple things with a Brazen Bar. Like, all of those things are super powerful at different stages of the game. And it got to the point that you had some combination of either Omnath decks morphing into Clover decks or Clover decks morphing into Omnath decks. I don't know which is which, but the fact that they're both powerful and people wanted to play both sets of cards really tells us a whole lot about the strengths of those cards. And if Omnath went away, we would still be back on Clover decks just being kind of nuts. Now, people say, Clover been around for a while, why now? Well, the difference is the formats, right? Like previously, the cards were very fast. You had a bunch of low to the ground aggro decks and whatnot, so you could somewhat battle these. The problem is now those things don't exist. Now come toward the end of the new standard where you have 6 sets or 7 sets or 8 sets, available at once, then you have more options for those decks, and then maybe that's different. The problem is we're still 9 months away from that, so we can't really worry about that right now. If you want standard to be fun for the next few months, this bad boy had to go. And as a bonus feature, we got rid of Escape to the Wilds. And yes, people are saying, why Escape to the Wilds? I said before, it was going to have to be Escape or Ultimatum, and I was leaning toward Escape. The reason being, this card's so good, I'd actually started brewing Gruul decks that were just playing this anyway. The problem is here, it's 5 cards. And a lot of times, you're going to get to play 3 or 4 at a minimum of those cards. Rarely did you get to use less than 3 of those cards, sometimes all 4 or 5, especially because 1 or 2 are lands and you just get to put them into play for free. It's really, really good. And if Omnath's gone, even with Clover gone, this card would still be showing up in a ton of decks. I mean, imagine anything that plays, I guess, Cobra or any type of ramp would want to be playing this card, right? Because it's 5 free cards, and you'll already have the mana to play them all on top of it. And if you don't, this gives you the option of getting a couple of those into play. The card is really, really too good. I just think in the previous standard, it didn't necessarily have a home, or in some ways, I think this suffers from something that we've talked about previously, that sometimes cards get unlocked to the community. And what I mean by that is we see them in action, people play them in a few things, and then everybody starts realizing how good a card is, so then it starts showing up everywhere. That's kind of the path we were on with Escape to the Wilds, I believe. Now, let's take a step back for a second, right? Am I here celebrating? Kinda. Like, am I glad the cards are gone? Yes. It is a little unfortunate we had to get to this type of situation or have this many people upset, or I don't know, maybe even people go pick up cards or whatever and then end up in this scenario. Now, that being said, some of that's on you. We all knew how good Omnath was. You could see the writing on the wall. The risk you take. You know the world we're in. That being said, this one, here's the thing. I want to say this. A lot of times, whenever cards end up on the ban list, it's not necessarily obvious how powerful the cards are going to be in some of the formats, or the decks that are going to be built around certain cards. So, you kind of get a pass. Even something like Lucky Clover is good And I could see how you could think, all right, maybe this could be okay. And even Escape to the Wilds, mostly fine. Though the put into play 2 lands clause seems a little bit much, but that's a whole different story. But Omnath, that's one that when you just read the card and you look at the cost and all the things it does, you kind of knew. So that one, it's kind of unfortunate we had to deal with. But regardless, we're not talking about the past, we're talking about the future and where we are now. And those cards are gone, which unlocks a whole lot of stuff. The fun part for me is that all these decks I've been putting up for the last couple of weeks that have been right on the fringes, maybe upper tier 3, lower to mid tier 2, you know, maybe they could hang with Omnath, but you were still only like 40%. Well, now those are all basically unlocks to the format, and we can play all types of different stuff. Now, will there be a future best deck? Like, whether that's Rakdos mid-range, whether it's Dimir Rogues, like, yes, there will always be a best deck. That being said, if we're at least in a situation where you know, those decks don't make up more than, let's say, 20 to 25% of a tournament field, maybe even 30, don't mind too much. That's totally reasonable. The thing is, the average player wants to be able to play a Magic tournament or play the arena ladder or whatever and play, you know, 6 or 7 different decks over the course of a couple hours, not 2 decks or 3 decks, right? That's what we're trying to avoid. You know, just a couple of days ago, I put up a Mardu Parties list. Maybe that's viable now. I don't know. Maybe it's still not. But the reality is more opportunity for more decks and more cards, and that's a benefit to everybody. So to that end, hey, thanks R&D for just doing the right thing here, even though it's 2 weeks late. Like, I'm still on board with it. It's still awesome and good news for everybody. But yeah, I'm excited. It definitely makes deck building a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. Welcome back, brewers, I guess. Now's the time. Hopefully, we'll start getting more views on some things here on the channel. Anyway, I'm excited. Let's go forward. Let's put this Omnath era behind us, and let's go build some fun decks. As usual, if you haven't, remember to like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and then come back and see us because I've got videos up every day. That's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.